and it's nice to hear your name called. It was early, too.
Yeah, or I don't know if it's ever been that early in the first segment, but really happy for our players. As I told them, they earned this 307 Division I baseball team. So to be one of the 64 is put you about in the 20% tile, and very happy for the families and our fan base that we have a short trip down to Nashville, and so we're looking forward to it.
When you look at that regional and everyone else that's a part of it, pretty winnable teams that you've seen before, initial reactions when you just kind of look at what you're up against?
Everybody's earned the right to be in the NCAAs, and so when you say winnable, it's about pitching, defense, and getting timely hits. So yes, we have familiarity with Vanderbilt because we play them every year, and a lot of respect for their program and the tradition, and they've earned the right to host and be a national seed. But I'll make sure these guys and their attention is on East Tennessee State. Like that's they've had a great year. They've been consistent all the way through, and then win or lose, you're playing one of the other two opponents. And Wright State is a regular in the NCAAs as well as Vanderbilt. So it's a super talented regional, a lot of familiarity with the teams, very regionalized with where everybody's from. So I think that's cool for like I said, the fans and the families and all the friends.
Dan, when you look big picture, you beat the top two teams, the top two seeded teams, and you went 6-2 against the top 9 seeds. What does that say about this team and the potential that you do have?
Yeah, I think the good news is these are the 64 best teams, and we've played our best, seems to be against the best competition. So I'll remind our players of that just to make sure that their belief is up and their confidence in their ability. And I think this time of the year, it's a balance of that confidence, because not everybody's going into the postseason rolling, not every pitcher, not every hitter. But also, man, have fun. Enjoy this. I want this to be a fun time. And if you can have that balance of joy and excitement and have fun while you're trusting your ability, then yeah, you have a chance to play really good baseball.
Kind of a bumpy end to the regular season, early exit from the ACC. What's the confidence level with the guys right now, the mindset?
And that's a good question. That's why we got back immediately. We got off the bus. We walked into this Omaha room and we met, and we had a heart-to-heart, and we wanted to get some things out on the table or put it behind us, and just to get them mentally and physically prepared for a great week. And so we came out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Had a good weekend, and today's a day to get the body right and the mind, and then we'll get back out on the field tomorrow and Wednesday before we head down to Nashville. So I really like our preparation. As I told the guys, and there's a lot of history in college baseball. There's a lot of teams that exit early. I think the 5 trips to the College World Series, I don't think we ever won the conference tournament. And there was a year or two where we went 0-2 and came home and ended up making a run to Omaha. So there's a lot of precedent set as to you don't have to finish great, but there are things that it forces you to address and hopefully get better at. And again, I'll have to remind these guys, and I think everybody's 0-0 when you go into the postseason. Mm-hmm. Your batting average, your ERA, your record doesn't have any weight on who plays better baseball. And I've tried to tell these kids, we prepare them to play postseason baseball, whether it's a Tuesday in February or a Saturday in March or a Sunday in April. So we're going to stick to the same routine and hopefully play what we call postseason baseball.
Kind of building off of that last question, obviously you want to win every game you want, but that does give you a little more extra time to rest and recover. And how important is that for you guys, considering how injury-riddled you guys are?
Yeah, we don't ever make a lot of excuses about the injuries, but people are aware. Let's start with Matt Klein. We played 8.5 ACC weekends without our 4-hole hitter, our catcher, and I give those young guys a lot of credit, man. They stepped up and did a good job. So get a guy like Matt Klein back, get Garrett Pike a little more rest, get Alex Alicea a little more rest with his thumb, and then the pitchers. Yeah, we were, we were, I don't know if to say we were going on fumes, but we weren't our best. the last few weeks. And so I do believe there's a physical opportunity to get the bodies, the legs underneath you, but also the mental strong. I mean, those games, I mean, there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of emotion and there's highs and there's lows, and sometimes it's just real healthy to step away, and take a breather. And like I said, we've seen this in college baseball, so hopefully we're on the right side of that.
Did you like what you saw from Matt? Do you feel like now, given another week or so, should be even better?
Yeah, I mean, just running him out there for the end of that Pittsburgh game and seeing the two at-bats and how comfortable he looked in the batter's box and seeing him behind the plate for an inning or two. Of course, we got the scrimmage this weekend, and so each day is important for him to get his timing down and really his confidence, just so but I think it's a boost for everybody. I think, everybody on the team is excited. I mean, I heard comments in the dugout yesterday, some of his at-bats, and one ball came off his bat. It didn't leave the yard, but, everybody was like, man, give him another week, and that ball could be leaving the yard as he just trusts it, and each day he gets stronger and healthier.
And Alex, do you feel like you will have,
It's hard to say you won't have Alex, as tough as he is, I mean, I picture him being in the starting lineup, but obviously we just got to see how he feels. And like the catchers, Byram Hott and Tanner Shiver stepped up, and that's been the thing about this club. I mean, really not making excuses throughout the year, and we really never talked about guys that weren't healthy. Man, just next guy up, and the depth. We brag about our depth, and it helped us this year. It kept us above float, and I think it made us a better club as we go into the postseason.
Do you know much about East Tennessee State? I mean, they hit a lot of home runs this year.
Yeah, I just from following them, I mean, how consistent they've been, and I think they played Pitt early in the year. They put it on a lot of teams. So for them to be a 3 seed, says, man, they didn't just win the conference tournament. Like, they've been pretty consistent all year, and I believe they won at Tennessee when they were number 1 in the country. So, it's, as you realize, this time of the year, everybody has earned the right to play in the postseason. So, you have to go out and earn it no matter who you're playing.
I know it was a long time ago, but one of the maybe more memorable victories is down there in that super regional. You've got good history for yourself and the coaches that have been around. It's good vibes down there.
Yeah, I think it's because we have so much respect for them, because we do play there every other year. We have crossed each other in the regionals a lot. We hosted them in 9 and 10 in our regionals. They hosted us in 13 in the supers. We seem to play them in Omaha most years whenever we get there. So I just think it's a lot of respect for the program that they are, and so I know our kids are always excited about that challenge. And but good memories for 13, where we broke out the Astros uniform, and that was a big statement in our program. Then we had only been to Omaha once, and as I always say, you didn't want to be a one-hit wonder. There's a lot of one-hit wonder songs that I like, but as a band or a group or as a team, a program, we didn't want to be a one-hit wonder, and that was the year we got to Omaha a second time. And then 14, really, when we went again in 14, it was like, okay, man, we got a chance to be a regular at the table, and it's harder and harder to be a regular at the table, but it took our program to another level.
Any early thoughts, pitching-wise, on what you might want to do down there as far as starters go?
No, I mean, you feel really good with Forbes, Bivin, and Eberle, and obviously Eberle, man, what a great month or 5-6 weeks he's had. But getting Forbes back in a routine, and we saw how good he was out here against Wake Forest, and then Tucker Bivin, as he became a starter. So I feel really good knowing, okay, you got 3 really good starters. I know Coach Williams will like to look at the matchups, and we won't get too fancy or too creative. I mean, you would think Patrick Forbes, should get the ball game 1, but we don't have to be married to that. And then, even a guy like Peter Michael, who struggled this last month, man, he's got a lot of starts under his belt. So, in a regional, it'd be nice to play 3 games and dogpile, but sometimes you got to play 4 or 5 games. And so it takes a pitching staff to go down there and compete. And so, but I feel good where we're at today because of those 3 starters, and that bullpen's got a lot of experience. So they're battle tested.
Do you expect to get Parker Detmers back in all this postseason?
No, we won't. We'll close the book on Parker and hate it for him, but he still has a bright future.
You always talk about guys evolving in that. With Tucker, did you feel like the starting? What was it that said, okay, let's try him in this role and see what we've got?
Just not being able to get him enough, innings or quality opportunities. That's the crazy thing about when you are the closer or the late inning guy. Sometimes the game just doesn't. You're up big, you don't want to use them. You could be down a few runs, you don't want to use them. And there was just a couple weekends in there, whereas Parker wasn't pitching, and then we lost Forbes for a little bit. It's like, hey, we got this guy Tucker Biven, who did start as a freshman, who was on Team USA, who we love him being out there, but we just weren't getting the right opportunity. And so, like you see in the big leagues, and they call it the opener, and ours was a little more of a, let's start him as an opener, but let's go from 1 inning to 3 innings, 3 innings to 5 innings. And it's I thought this could happen when we started, to use him as a starter. It was with that thought, hey, this guy could definitely be one of our weekend starters.
You guys are an aggressive team on the base paths. How much more does that become an advantage in the postseason?
It's just, you got to be who you are. We don't have to steal bases to win games, but it's nice to know you have it in your back pocket, and the threat of the steal will do its thing. You got to be who you are. You can't try to be somebody else in the postseason. So we've been very offensive this year, whether it's the doubles and home runs, obviously the stolen bases, and we're not perfect by any means, but we kind of live and die by the aggressiveness and the way we play, and I want to make sure these guys are loose and ready to play that way.
Just an overall thought, it's been a crazy year all over with upsets and everything. When you look at those top 16 seeds, there's really there's anything could happen, couldn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the history of baseball. We went to Omaha as a 3 seed one year. We've had national champions as a 4 and a 3 seed coming out of a regional. So I think you have to be, mature enough is the right word, but educated enough to go, man, in baseball, as I said, just throw the records out. Yes, most teams are playing really good at this time, but not all. And some teams back their way in or coming in, and that's what's great about baseball. It doesn't matter. And we see in the big leagues, how the wild card will make a run and win the whole thing. And so for me, it's just, I'll emphasize what winning baseball is, as we've done all year. Let's throw strikes, be aggressive in the zone. Let's really play good defense. And good defense is really just making all the routine plays. Now, if you can make a great player too, that'll help. And then, when you say be offensive, it's a 2-out hit. It's going to be a 2-out hit, and as we've talked a few times, I'm optimistic. Some breaks have to go our way. They're showing highlights in there. They're showing the kid rob Eddie King of a 3-run homer. It's like, we've gone through some. We've been tested this year, and so I need a ball to hit off somebody's glove and be a 3-run homer. And maybe it'll just even out.
Dan, you mentioned Eddie King. He's had since early in the year and got through that little injury. And talk about him. You may have already talked about it.
No, I haven't. And I think as we talked about Matt Klein a little earlier, and we're getting him back for the postseason, Eddie was the key. We needed Eddie to step up in a big way, and he did. You love it as a coach when a kid comes back for his senior year, because the draft is not where – it's just not the right time for him to cross the line. But baseball is such a hard sport. You could try harder and it could backfire on you. And so for Eddie, putting himself in this position, want him to have a great postseason, make a long run here, he's ready for pro ball. I'm so excited for him to cross the line into pro ball and see how he can move through an organization and what organization gets him. So really happy for him and excited for the postseason.
With how up and down you guys have been when playing away from Jim Patterson, how big is it to be put in a regional where it's just a 2.5 hour drive away from
Yeah, that's a positive, right? Let's put it there. And as I said, and we were up and down all year. We were just never terrible. We just couldn't get over the hump. It was like we were so close. So that's why when I do say we're battle tested, we've done a lot of good things on the road, but it was like we never did enough. And obviously to advance and succeed in the regional, you got to do a little more. And so I hope the opening tournament in Dallas and the 5 ACC road trips and the ACC tournament, I mean, you got seven opportunities where you really had to go on the road. I hope we're better off for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.